And wives, and you can just stand up as I introduce them. Okay, I'll start over here. On the left, this is Aunt B, McLaughlin, and across is Melford. Wherever you are. Next is Ruth Everett, and this is her husband Victor in the red. And next we have Shirley Price and her husband's Gary.
Voy llegar llegando a mi institución.
Next we have a guest of honor, Grammy. And next we have Wayne Morrill and his wife is Doris. Next we have Carl and his wife is sitting here beside Doris.
Come up, Frida!
Next we have the eldest and the wisest, Doug. Okay, I'd just like to welcome
Can I pass in front of you?
to this occasion. And first I'm going to call on Wayne. He's going to say a few words.
Thank you. Welcome, Morals. And honored guests. When they asked me to say a few words, they said it was going to be for the pros. So some of the things I say may not actually reflect the way I feel towards my mother. One thing I'd like to clear up before I start is there's some people here who think that Raymond and Neva only had 4 kids. For those people, I'm Wayne. This is Shirley. I was born 3 years after they decided not to have any more kids. Shirley 5 years. I fought the rest of my life fighting against birth control. Now, they asked me to try and tell some funny stories about Mother. I have a few, but I missed the first half. I'm 40, Mother's 80. So I missed the first half, and what I know about the first half, I just sort of got from listening to people and picking up some ideas and some rumors. As far as I can tell, she started teaching around World Side when she was about 10 years old. And since then, she's taught at least one subject to almost everybody in Victoria County, if not everybody, and a few people in Carleton County. Now, the only thing I couldn't find out was whether anybody actually learned anything. And, from some of the stories that Mother told, she always told one, which I'm going to repeat. There's a story of somebody she met, I don't know who it was, but somebody almost as old as she was. And she met this person. And he came up to her to sort of congratulate her. He said, "You taught me everything I know, and I don't know nothing." That's her own story. I really couldn't go any further. I'm going to have to try and tell a joke, which I've heard Mother tell since I've been about 3 years old. I've heard this joke 500 times. The first 100 times I laughed. And, I'm sure everybody here has heard it, but just in case there's one person here, in the 3rd generation or whatever, hasn't heard the joke, it's about the Hotel Astor. Maybe some people haven't heard it. Anyway, this is a Mother joke. I've never heard anybody else tell it, and I've heard her tell it numerous times. She probably should tell it. Anyway, it's about the Hotel Astor, which I guess is in Boston, as far as I know. And they hired somebody to go out to the train station to pick up passengers getting off the train. So this guy, they're hard to go out. He was supposed to drive the bus out, and then when the people come off the train, he was supposed to yell, "Free bus to the Hotel Astor." And the guy wasn't that bright. It's probably one of Mother's first students, And he hadn't learned that much, but they spent some time with him, the hotel manager, and they taught him he had memorized this, "Free bus to the Hotel Astor." So he drove his bus out there, and he's waiting around. He's saying, free bus to the Hotel Astor. He's got it memorized. He's going over it and over it. Anyway, he kind of falls asleep. When he wakes up, the train's in, and people are coming down off the train. So then he runs out and he says, "Bust your ass to the hotel treatment." After that, he says, no, that's not right. He says, "Freeze your ass at the hotel bus." He said, no, that's not right. It's "Freeze your bus at the Hotel Astor." He said, no. They said, "Oh, the hell with it. Take a streetcar." That's Mother's joke. She's sort of appropriate for her to tell jokes about buses because she's been around the world 3 times. The first time around the world, she hitchhiked around the world with Hilda McVeigh, living in a pup tent. And I think they also living in the pup tent with Mrs. Macro, cooking her food over an open fire in a hobo jungle. The second time around the world, probably most of you know, they named a city after her in Switzerland. You've probably heard of Geneva, Switzerland. The third time around the world, she stopped off in London to visit the Queen. That was only last year. And while she was there, you know, the Queen was looking for a name for her new granddaughter. You know, the girl was born to Fergie and Prince Andrews last year. And Mother says, well, I really don't want to tell you what to call her, but I called my first girl Beatrice. The Queen says, I like that. The rest is history. So she's been on all these world trips, and she's supposedly quite an entertainer on these trips. You know, she's known as a storyteller, and she keeps people amused on the trips. And I can understand that, because I've traveled with her. We went to California, I don't know, about 8 years ago, I guess. We drove to California together, and it's hilarious. First of all, you know, if you go on a trip with her, she knows the history of the world by county. So like, it's quite interesting. It's also quite humorous, because like when you go into a restaurant and she goes to order, you know, the waitress comes out, and you got this young waitress, and she sees this lady, you know, who doesn't look old, let's face it, but you know, she kind of maybe starting to get a little old, a little frail, white hair. So the waitress is figuring, you know, like a salad and, you know, maybe a cheese sandwich. So, you know, she comes around the Mother's order, and Mother says, well, you know, I'll have a pizza, you know, all fast, extra cheese, you know, side order of fries and a large Coke. So the waitress, you know, thinks she's on candid camera, you know. Going around trying to figure out what a camera is. Because, you know, I can't believe this lady. But, you know, she doesn't realize that inside this 80-year-old body is a teenager who's dying to get out. She doesn't realize that at home she has pork chops for breakfast. Then I have to tell a couple of stories that happened to us on our way down to California, because this is sort of a roast, and she's probably going to kill me for it. One time we were eating in a restaurant, and she's having fries, of course. And she's putting ketchup on the fries, and she says, wait, she says, I can't get the ketchup out of this thing. And I look over there, and she's squeezing the old bejesus out of these little wet napkins. One of these little wet ones you wipe your hands with. Squeeze them away. Couldn't use her magical powers on that one. And then the other one, I don't know whether she put me on this stuff, you know, or whether she's really doing these things, or was just trying to make me look stupid. But anyway, another time we're driving in California, and down there they have a lot of drives. So they have like Rodeo Drive and California Drive, you know, Manchester Drive, and drives and the street signs are all initial DR. So Mother says they must really like their doctors around here. They name all the streets after. Like I said, I never know whether she put me on or whether she really quite a joker, you know. Another time we were traveling with Violet Manuel, and quite a kidder, you know. Violet's about the same age as her, maybe a year older, a year younger, I don't know, essentially the same age. But Violet had a bad knee, so I was pushing Violet in a wheelchair. And I kind of went over a curb, and I almost upset Violet. So, you know, when that happened, there was a bunch of people, like 3 or 4 people walking by, and they stopped, and they come over to see if they could help or look around. Mother never missed her chance. She said, did you hurt yourself, Mother? Violet was mad, you know, very, very insulted. Very interesting person to travel with. That pretty well ties up my story. We were talking this afternoon, and we were trying to think of, or we were talking about some of the expressions that we've never heard anywhere else. You know, maybe they come from around here, but I've never heard anybody but Mother use them. They're sort of colorful. There's a lot of colorful language. Things like, you know, like if somebody's giving you a hard time, you say, pardon me for living, I fell out of a hearse. And the other one is somebody sort of being conceited, you say, you want to be the bride at the funeral and the corpse at the wedding. Or the kids are being bad, they say, you know, we're going to have to talk to them by hand. Things I've never heard anywhere else. So, she got this very creative imagination, which keeps coming up. So that's all about all I got to say about this creative person, Martin. Oh, I forgot. Thank you for reminding. I have to go back here. We're talking. She went around the world 3 times, right? I told you about that. It was the last time they named the baby Beatrice. And now the next trip around the world is next summer. And this time she's going around the world on a love boat. And so one of the things, she has a bunch of other presents too, but we got this kit for Around the World on a Love Boat. One's a toothbrush, and this, of course. I just hope she doesn't come back with a stepdaddy. Was that? That's all I got to say, except to wish happy birthday to a beautiful, wonderful mother.
Okay, next on the agenda we have Cindy McLaughlin Jensen, that's Abby and Malford's daughter. And she's going to, grandmother's always very creative in writing poems for other occasions, so Cindy has decided to write a poem for this occasion. However, it's going to be quick because she may be having her baby at any time.
She's due to Okay.
Today, I would like to tell a story that concerns a dear, sweet lady. She is celebrating her birthday today. Surprise, she just turned 80. Well, a lot know her as teacher, for she taught for many years. Some she pushed into another grade and brushed away their tears. For some, she's known as mother, and she's been the very best. There is no one who can compete with her when they are put to the test. And of course, she's dear old Grammy to the ones who love her most. I be speaking of Geneva Morrill, a woman I sure devote. She graduated from Teachers College in 1927 and taught on the Portage until 1929. She boarded with McCarthy's at the old homestead, and of course I thought she was just fine. Then she taught a year in Morrill Sidon and lived with Maddie and Fred McHugh. It was the year 1929 to 1930, if the record should stand true. Then she taught at California Settlement, and I guess it must have been a bore, because she moved back to Morrill Sidon to roam away no more. She married Raymond Morrill, a day they'll never regret. It was a lucky day for both of them, the day those two met. She noticed Raymond at a barn dance, where everyone did go. She knew she'd have to do the courting, since Raymond was quite slow. She walked 3 miles to church in Tilly, hoping she might get a little peek of Raymond doing his chores at the old dog farm. I guess she could be quite a sneak. Well, eventually she succeeded, because Raymond, he did look. He asked Geneva to marry him, and of course that's all it took. So they wed in December, and their life together began, her being his darling wife, and him being her loving man. They raised 6 children on a farm with cows and pigs and chickens. They had a lot of fun growing up, and was spoiled like the Dickens. Dawn was the first one born, and to Raymond and Neva's glee, they'd taken him a horse and buggy for everyone on the road to see. 2 years later, a girl was born, and Beatrice was what she was known to others. But 5 young kids called her mom, and she is the best of mothers. Carl was born on December 1st. He's much more than I can say. He's always been like Robin Hood in his own special way. Then, of course, there is Ruth, who everyone loves if you want the truth, because she'd drive for miles to have a good time. She's a good-hearted woman with awful mind. Wayne, who is the 5th in line, is as handsome as he is tall. He graduated an electrical engineer. Today he lives in Montreal. But when they say save the best for last, I guess they mean this girl. The baby of Geneva's family is better known as Cheryl. Neva has one sister named Beatrice, and 2 sons she did give birth. Ralph lives in Ontario, Matt in Grand Falls, and Beatrice lives in Perth. Geneva has 16 grandchildren, of whom you all should know. There's Colleen, Kevin, Cindy, Bill, and Mike, and Alan, Vicky, and Joe. Then Stephen and Jonathan from Montreal, who not too often do we see. Kelly, Lori, and their little brother Todd, and Pammy, Marty, and Angie. She has 7 great-grandchildren, and soon there will be 8. There is Luke, Robbie, Jenny, Jordan, Kevin, Craig, and little Kate. She has more friends than I could count on everyone's fingers and toes. They range from Ireland to PEI, and then no one really knows. She plays the mean game of hearts. She never was too good at rummy, but give her a hand of 45 and she'll make you look like a dummy. Every other fall but last, you would see Geneva go up the road to Milford and Beats with her potato basket in tow. She'd pick potatoes on her knees and sing us a little song. She'd keep us all in stitches as we picked along. She never was much of a wimp. She's as tough as she can be. When she got out of her car to get the mail, it knocked her down and ran over her knee. Well, of course, this was the old blue Chev. It was the first car she did own. And though it tried to get the best of her, no damages was done to her knee bone. Then along came the brown Maverick, and it cruised us everywhere. If there was a place we wanted to go, Neva would jump in and we'd tear. Now there is the K car, and Neva drives in style. I think by the shape it's in, she'll have this car a while. For the past 17 or 18 years, Neva has made the trip to St. Anne de Beaupré in Quebec, a year she would not skip. As far as her religion goes, she'll ask, is there any other? Of course she's Roman Catholic, or she wouldn't be my grandmother. Religion is important to her, although she loves to tease. You can tell she's said her share of prayers by the indents on her knees. So here's to Geneva Moral. As a friend, you are a dear. As a mother, you're the best there is, and we always want you near. But as a grandmother, you really take the cake, and you've never been a bore. So happy birthday, dear Geneva, and may God bless you many more.
Great crowd. I'm very impressed to see such a great crowd turn out, and this is quite an occasion. But I guess Cindy was talking about mother going picking potatoes, going to pick potatoes every fall. Well, I saw her pick potatoes. I think it's only picked 80 barrels a day last year. She was falling down, but I recall, see, I was around a lot before Wayne, and I can tell about some of the early days, the early years. And I recall one fall, father used to grow potatoes, and he used to dig with a team, horses, and old digger didn't have an engine on either. And he didn't dig that fast. Of course, the digger wasn't in that good a condition. He used to have problems with the legs falling out. But anyway, one year we stayed out of school. Well, we out of school to help harvest the crop. So we picked the potatoes and helped haul him with it. Mother was in the hospital, might have been when Charlie was born. Well, I think she'd been for an operation anyway. But the next year, when she got recuperated and got her health back, they didn't keep us out of school. She picked the whole crop. She picked right behind the digger. And like I was saying, the digger, father had problems with the digger. And she stayed right so close behind him, if the legs did fall out, she went right by him. They used to have those little hand diggers, and they always had that on the back of the digger for, saws and stuff, and shake saws up, so you just grab that little hand digger, right by him, she doesn't know. It's rather unusual person, and life never really got dull, but life was never dull having her as a mother. She had several titles, I guess you'd call it. We lived by the track and the station. Station there where the train stopped and the ferry. And there wasn't much going on those days, but anyway, she was the station master. People used to come there and wait for the train, and she knew the schedule. I worked on the railroad for 33 years, where I had to look at the timetable, tell when the train's due, but she knew what time the train was due. There was one train went up, one was down every day. And she knew what time the trains were due, what time they were due at each station, as far as Woodstock South, for arriving time and leaving time. So these people used to come from out back, way long ways away, way over the hills, and they'd walk in. Some of them had never saw a train, they never saw a house. They'd appear in there as early as 8 o'clock in the morning. One gum rubber and one shoe bag. Put her cap on, know, some are near dead down. Some are hardly civilized, but she takes them in, sometimes have a breakfast. And she tell them, give them the price, what it costs to go to Ground Falls, one way or return. Then she feed them their dinner and sell them a few tickets probably. She's always selling tickets. Sell her fortune. Oh yeah. And all these things. So that was one of her titles. I call it Space Master and Dispatcher. And when she got on the phone, well, she had several duties, and they called her for everything. She seemed to have the answers, and she seemed to know. If she didn't, she had all kinds of books there. She had the encyclopedia right next to the phone, she'd find out. So within a couple of minutes, somebody wanted to deliver a baby, tell them how, if they wanted to have a problem with a math question, she'd work it out for them. How to make soap. Mostly anything, you know, I mean, it's true. They just kept falling there and price of coke, you know. I remember one time somebody called her, how much is a liter of coke? What's it cost? She told me right off. She was certainly a unique person, an unusual mother. Anyway, she always had a few lines that I always remembered. One was, she would tell me sometimes that I paid too much for my whistle. Another one is, she used to say, life is what you make it. And of course, I didn't believe it then, but now I can certainly agree with her. So, anyway, she was a counselor also. People come there and just having problems, you know. I mean, this was a few years ago, before there was psychiatrists and counselors. Now it's like smaller. First, now they go to the doctor, they go to their MD, and they say, well, I'm having a problem, you know, I'm not feeling good. Motor running my car. You know, my daughter's stayed out all night, so the doctor, he said, well, I'll give you something to feed over the heart, you know, heart, over the rat spot. So he gives them a prescription. And then after they take that for a while, well, then they have to see a counselor, a psychologist. In those days, we never heard tell of things like that. But they come to mother and they'd walk in with their stepping on their lower lip, and head down, you know. It was pathetic. I'd watch them in there. I see one girl come in, I was out mowing the grass. I cut the mower off, she wouldn't speak to me. You know, and her head down. She was in there for an hour. She was back out, I don't know, another choice is done, but she come back out. Good morning. It's a beautiful day. Great. It's cured right there. So that was another one of her titles. And of course, tutor. She was always tutoring. But when times, like I say, in the early years, times where I was born in the Depression, which I never knew it, I never suffered it, because mother and father would give us the best. They went without themselves. But, you know, like when things were bad, and if you did get in a little trouble, she'd always come up with a solution. She'd always look on the bright side, the best side of everything. So I would have to say that I really I grew up, you know, with a happy environment. Grew up in a happy, loving household. Thank you.
Is there anybody now who would like to come up and say anything?
I too am very happy to attend the birthday of this very fine lady. She is a fine lady. I've known her for a long time. Phyllis asked me if I would sing When Irish Eyes Are Smiling. She certainly is Irish, and she certainly has smiling eyes. So, when Irish eyes are smiling, sure the world is bright and gay. In the lilt of Irish laughter, you can hear the angels say, when Irish hearts are happy, all the world is bright and gay. And when Irish eyes are smiling, sure they'll steal your heart away.
If that's everything, I think we'll conclude with that. And we'll be having a lunch shortly. You can just socialize and chat, and that's it.
Don't Jordy.
I want to thank all the people for the nice things they said, because usually when you're dead, the people say all the things. But I pinched myself and I'm still alive. So thank you very much. Thank you all for singing the song. And thank everybody for Mr. Palmer. I really scared you. You did very well. So I want to thank everybody. And I want to thank and I want another party like this when I'm 90. And I want you all to be here.
Want me to do a little step dance?
These guys are fancy. They go around with fancy cameras
Told you, you have to have money.
You're set good.
What?
You're set good.
Oh, yeah. Won the lotto.
Candid camera, smile.
I haven't thought of
I've heard all that. I know all about it. Yeah, that's
Well, that's
right.
fine with me. I'm feeling new here because I heard your name come up so much.
That's the same thing with me. All the people she worked with, like Dawson Burry.
Part of it. Oh, yes. Yeah, that's right. Dawson just called her on the phone.
Yeah, no, I
That's
know all
nice,
these
eh?
names, I don't know the people.
Yeah. I guess I know nothing unreal. I picked that up.
Oh, yeah.
Bought one the other day when he talked. Really? I didn't see anything I wanted. He's not on this one.
That's great, look sharp.
Nice color, nice
There's
deep
another
color.
photographer back here.
Just got some papers. I said, I think I'll go after Christmas.
Well, like this, John, no, I just gotta move on, but I thought I'd look too lazy the way I was sitting there. This, Carl there, John, he's got a bad back. He got some kind of problem with his back. He can hardly walk. John, Lori's John. What it is, bad back is the result of
Last thing I expected,
So you left. Oh, you did. Oh. But we'd have phone, you get all together.